Call the City Commission meeting Thursday, October 12th to order. First item on the agenda would be the September 14th minutes. Any changes? Stand as written. Next item on the agenda would be the August 2017 financial statement.
Mayor and Commissioners, I'm Jacob Wood, Assistant City Manager. I'll be giving the financial report for this month. Revenues in August totaled $2.1 million, which is an increase of $279,000 compared to the same period last year. The increase can be contributed to a slight uptick in water usage and an increase in the airport improvement grant revenue connected to the wildlife fence project. Expenditures in August totaled $3.5 million, which is an increase of $243,000 as compared to 2016. Notable areas of increase are $46,000 in the parks improvement for the UP Plaza restroom, $63,000 for the road work at the sports complex, and $26,000 in water reserve expenditure that's connected to a CO2 tank and 11th Street water project design. The month-to-date general fund sales tax collections were at $577,000, which is a decrease of $30,000 or 5% from last year. Year-to-date collections are at $4.7 million, which is down $51,000 or about 1% compared to last year. Total investments are at $4.6 million when compared to this time last year. The full report is available in your packet. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to stand for those now.
Jacob, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but on that, the DHCC where they're reimbursing, what is the schedule on the reimbursement for something like that? Do you know?
We should actually, I think we have actually already received that
Have you
check.
received it? Okay.
It just
We
hasn't
have.
come through.
Okay, and how does, when you know that, how do we know that when stuff is done like that?
How do we know?
I
We
mean,
send them an invoice and then they pay us.
Nobody,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, no, that was my question. Any other questions?
Move that we accept the financial report as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's 4-0. Almost said 5, but of course, that's not. Next item on the agenda would be citizen comments. Seeing none. Next item would be employee promotions and new hires.
Good evening. I'm Jesse Rohr, Public Works Director for the City of Hayes. Got 3 employees I want to recognize tonight. I'm going to start with Curtis Dinas over here on the end. Curtis was recently promoted to Planning Inspection Enforcement Superintendent for the Public Works Department. Curtis has actually been with the city for quite some time. He started May of 2002 with the water plant as an operator. 2003, Curtis was promoted to an inspector. In 2013, was promoted to Inspector 2, and then now in his new role as the PI Superintendent. I do also want to mention, for those that might not know, that Curtis is also a Chief Petty Officer with the United States Navy, has been with the Navy Seabees for over 20 years. Curtis, in his time with the city, has been a true asset to the city. We've been lucky to have him in his years of service. And we have no doubt Curtis will do a good job for the PI office and the city as a whole. So, Curtis.
Congratulations, Curtis.
Congratulations.
Thank you for your service.
Next in the middle here, we got Zach Romo. And I had a lot of guys tonight, so I got to check my notes. Zach actually started with the city back in August of this year. He started as a recycling collector with the Solid Waste Division. Zach came to us from Concordia, where he worked for the Cloud County Highway Department, so he's new to Hayes as well. So welcome, Zach. Zach so far has done a fantastic job for the Solid Waste Division, and we're looking forward to lots of years of service from Zach as well.
Congrats.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to Hayes.
And last of my 3 here, we have Alex McCune. Alex, this past Monday, was promoted to the inspector position with the Planning Inspection Enforcement Office. Alex has actually been with the city for almost 2 years. He started with the city in 2015 as a maintenance worker with the Water Resources Department, and about a year after that was promoted to Maintenance Worker 2 with the Water Resources Department, and now on to inspector. So he's familiar with the city, familiar with the operations, so we're lucky to have him. He came highly recommended by his previous bosses here with the city. So we're looking forward to having Alex with us at Public Works and his years of service as well. So
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
thanks, guys.
Thank you guys for coming tonight.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm John Brown, the City Project Manager. 21 years ago, Curtis Weber began employment with the City of Hayes in the Service Division of Public Works. In 2003, he was promoted to Inspector within the then newly formed Planning, Inspection, and Enforcement Division. And recently he has been promoted to Project Inspector within the recently the new Project Management Office within the City of Hayes. Curtis's duties include oversight of capital improvement projects such as 8th Street, which is currently underway. Curtis, over the time, has proved himself to be a very competent and dependable city employee.
Great.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I got to know Curtis a little while back. He is a graduate of Leadership Hayes and wrote some project work for some things in the city, and it was nice working with you, and you did a good job on what you did.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening, Brian Dawson, Assistant Chief of Police with the Hayes Police Department. Excited and happy to introduce to you tonight a couple officers coming on board with the Hayes Police Department. First to my left here, Derek Nordell, otherwise known as 533, is his badge number and radio handle. Derek is from Concordia, Kansas, born and raised. He attended Cloud County Community College on a basketball and track scholarship. He also attended the Manhattan Area Technical College for a degree in welding and welding science. Derek has been interested in law enforcement from a young age. It has been a lifelong goal of his to become an officer and help people. He is excited to be a member of the Hayes Police Department and this wonderful community. And he's relatively new. How many days in are you now?
I think it's been exactly a week.
Exactly a week. So, Derek Nordell.
Welcome to Hayes.
Welcome.
On his left is Donovan Richmeyer, also known as 525. Donovan graduated from the Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center in 2003. He worked for our department actually back in 2007 and did some part-time work for us back in 2016. He's a former Special Situation Response Team member. Donovan also received the Gold Award in 2011 for Exceptional Police Service in 2010 year. He was awarded in 2011 through the Kansas Association of Chiefs of Police. Donovan is a former police canine handler. He was holding dual certifications through the Rivera Police Canine and the Kansas Police Dog Associations. Donovan has trained and maintained and deployed 2 different canines in the course of 6 years. He is a current guest emergency vehicle operators course instructor with the Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center. So we're happy to have Donovan back. He brings a lot of experience and knowledge, and he's a good fit for us, so we're happy to have Donovan back. So please welcome Donovan Richmeyer and Derek Nordell.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Both of
Thank you
guys.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks for coming out tonight.
We've
Nice to
had-
meet you.
Had a lot of police officers come through here lately. Do we have a lot of openings left in the police department? I mean, I know there were a lot to fill, so I'm just curious.
We have one that is moving back to Ottawa, and his last day will be on the 21st, so we'll be filling his position. We have another one that has informed us that maybe at the first of the year is looking to sign up with the Marines, so we'll have that position to fill as well. In addition, we have 3 slots that we're also trying to fill, so you'll probably be seeing some more new faces yet to come.
Good.
We have 4 at the academy right now, so
Oh, very
Awesome.
good.
so
Very
very
good.
excited. Got some very good new recruits. So
Great.
Well, thank you for what you guys will do, and appreciate you guys coming on board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
thank you.
Next item on the agenda would be consent agenda, would be cereal malt beverage license application for St. Catherine Catholic Church lunch, October 22nd, 2017. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Thank you.
Opposed, nay. That's 4-0. Next item on the agenda, new business, park sidewalk installation.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jeff Woyle, Director of Parks. In the 2017 Special Park and Recreation budget, we have $40,000 budgeted to begin sidewalk installations in some various park areas throughout town. We looked at 4 areas for this go-around, took bids on 4 different areas. The first one is a Frontier Park. This would be East Frontier and North Frontier. We currently actually have sidewalks at this location. However, they're asphalt and they're severely broken up, crumbling. So we would like to get those sidewalks fixed. It's one of our most popular spots in any of our park areas. We think it's important to get that section fixed. The only area that is not currently a sidewalk is the little yellow line that goes over to the playground. That's the only short section. It's only like 14 foot long, but the rest of it has current existing sidewalks there. We did receive 7 bids for our sidewalk projects. In this particular area, the bids came in with Dustin Hines Construction as the low bid at $7,700. The next park area that was looked at was Iki Park, and this sidewalk is 705 feet long. There is currently no sidewalk in the location of the red line. We would like to finish that sidewalk. There's a lot of future projects planned at Iki if everything comes together, and this is one of the areas that we feel is really important to get done. Once again, the bids came in, and Dustin Hines Construction was low bid at $14,000 for that area. Next area that was looked at is Hickok Park. This is one of the bigger sidewalk projects we have this year. On the right-hand side along Donald Street, there's a section there. It's about 575 feet long. The southernmost section is 852 feet long. Those were planned as part of the bid process. While doing this park, I was visiting with Public Works, and they asked about the area on the left-hand side of your screen. There's 2 areas. One's 217 foot long and one is 70 foot long. This is a high traffic area. Currently no sidewalks in that location. They requested that I add that to the bids to see if it was something that could be afforded to get done. The total bids came in for this entire park came in at $34,200. And the 2 short sections that Public Works had us add on were $5,700 of that $34,000. So we are requesting to go ahead and move forward with that one as well. Kind of recap: Frontier Park is $7,700. Iki Park is $14,000. Hickok Park and the Indian Trail sections that Public Works asked us to add on is $34,200. Total price is $55,900 to get it all done. We're requesting $50,200 from the Special Park and Recreation budget and $5,700 from the Special Highway budget to pay for this short section by Indian Trail. I will let the Commission know that our budget was $40,000. We are asking for $50,200, which is over our budget. However, there's ample funds in the Special Park and Recreation budget to cover that, and we'd like to see the projects done in their entirety. So basically, we're asking for approval to create a purchase order to Dustin Hines for $55,900 for these projects.
Jeff, I have a question. I know I think I asked this at the work session on the special highway budget. I mean, I know it's only $5,700, but how is that going to affect that budget?
It's fine. We have plenty of contingency in that budget.
And we can only use these funds for stuff just like this, correct?
For park projects, yes.
Park projects.
Yep.
Did anybody find out? It's just odd to me that there's literally a matter of sometimes $10 between the low bidder and the next low bidder, and it was that way for all 3 projects.
Yeah, we had really close bids on all these, very close.
Interesting. I'd move that we award the bid of $55,900 to install sidewalks in Frontier Park, Hickok Park, Iki Park, and a short section of Indian Trail to Dustin Hines Construction with funding of $50,200 from Special Park and Recreation budget and $5,700 from the Special Highway Fund.
I'll second.
The area in Hickok Park is very highly trafficked, and
Very.
it will be very important to do.
Yes, I agree.
And Ecke Park, I see a lot of people out there too.
We did include Rolling Hills, I might add, to the bid specs. However, as we move forward with this, we realize there's some stormwater issues that we have to take care of up there along 41st Street before we can put sidewalks in, so I did want to let the commission know that as well.
Yeah, that'll be a nice addition to what's up there along 41st already.
Yes, it
You know-
will.
Sorry, sir.
Have we worked with this contractor before?
No, but I did call inspection department on they inspect the jobs, and there's been no issues with the contractor, so pretty.
Is this an all or nothing? Like we can't, to me, the sidewalks around where the roads are so pedestrians can get off they're necessary, but the one at Frontier Park, it doesn't bother me at all to go out there and walk on that asphalt thing. So is this an all or nothing?
It's not an all or nothing, no. The commission could take any one of them out that you choose to, and we can come back to it later on. It's just, with it being our most highly used area, I think it's important that we make sure we have something nice there for folks to walk on.
Aesthetically, the concrete will be a lot nicer.
A lot nicer.
I understand where Commissioner's coming from with the overage, but if we have the contingency fund, I'm okay with it.
Well, and I mean, you would have to do maintenance. The asphalt's going to take a lot more maintenance, so I mean, if we didn't do that, would there have to be some maintenance?
We'd have to do some patchwork right now, yeah. Yes.
You know, we get compliments all the time, our parks, and I think this is just adds to what we have. And I think it's, Frontier Park, like you said, it's one of the highly used ones. I mean, I've been down there for middle school cross country, and you see the hundreds of people down there. And I think it just adds to it, and, you know, hopefully we can even have more events like that down there. So.
And the shelter house that is at that location is our number one, down in the bottom right-hand corner, that's our number one reserve shelter, so.
It's beautiful down there.
It really is nice.
Any other comments?
I just want to correct one old thing, and it's a silly thing. It's just that I happen to know the family, the Eke family, and we keep calling it the Ecke Park. And it's actually the Eke Park. Jack and Marilyn Eke were dear friends of my parents when they were in Hayes, and the whole Eke family was prominent in the community. So I'm just correcting that a little bit, because Ecke sounds like it's not right to me.
Yeah.
It isn't.
Appreciate that.
Jeff mentioned the future improvements at Eke Park. I was talking to a local Rotarian today before lunch, and he proudly informed me that they're like this close to having their money raised to matching funds for a restroom at Eke Park. So
That's great.
that'll be the next
It's pretty
improvement there.
exciting.
The softball or the baseball area, and I like the no-mow areas around the parks, I do, but if you hit the ball out of the infield at that park, you're gonna lose your ball. I think maybe we ought to move the no-mow area back a little farther from the softball area.
Let me look at that, because the last time when we started that, there was just really young kids playing there, so let me look at that. We can easily mow that out, so that's
Yeah,
not an
and I would
issue.
say 10 or 12-year-olds are probably gonna hit it past that
Yeah.
no-mow
Okay.
area.
I'll take a look at that, we'll get that taken care of.
I would agree, because that was one of the biggest complaints we get in town. And I understand why we do the no mow, but I think we could hopefully adjust a little bit.
Yeah, that'd be easy to do, absolutely.
Appreciate you considering that.
Yep.
All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 4-0. Next item on the agenda, Hayes Aquatic Park Wood Structure Staining.
This is the aerial photo of the Hayes Aquatic Park. All the areas in red are wood structures that were originally put up with the facility when it was built in 1999. From the time it was built, we were advised by the contractor on the project that we will need to keep that wood sealed and stained in order to preserve it and keep it from rotting away. And some of the areas are really difficult to get to as far as if you ever did have to replace it. So we're trying to be really proactive with these things. Started off, we could get by for a couple of years without doing the sealing and staining, and then we have to get it done. Now we're up to about 4 years roughly. The last time this was done was 2013 at a cost of $24,000. So it is time to get them done. We did go out for bids once and only received one bid, and it was over budget. So city staff resent the bids out across the state, and we were fortunate again to get one more bid. That bid was for $24,320, and it's from Primary Painting and Remodeling in Russell, Kansas. The product we use on this structure from the get-go has been a product called Sikkens Cetol. So we're asking to stay with the Sikkens Cetol so that it'll work with the current preservative that's on it. And again, that's about $680 under budget. So we are asking to approve that bid from Primary Painting and Remodeling of Russell, Kansas.
I'll move we approve the low bid for primary painting and remodeling for the staining and sealing of the wood structures at the Hayes Aquatic Park for an amount of $24,320 for the pool general, from the pool general fund budget.
Second.
Motion and second. Have we used this contractor before?
We have not used this contract before. I did check references, and the references that I was able to get a hold of checked out fine.
Okay.
I actually went down after we had the discussion, because we had the discussion about how me and staining, I know a lot. It really does look good, and the way we've kept it up, it looks really, really nice. I guess it's harder to see the good than it is the bad.
Right.
So when I looked at it, I haven't thought about how good it is, because it wasn't bad. But
Right.
it really looks nice, and you guys are doing a really good job keeping it up.
Thank
That
you.
Sikkens Cetol, how are you spelling that last?
CETOL. And I actually had the contractor that originally built the pool down there over the summer,
Uh-huh.
and he made the same comment. He
Yeah.
says the wood sure looks nice.
It looks rich. It
So-
looks really nice.
Thank you.
Hey, Jeff,
Sorry.
I know this is off subject a little bit. We discussed this last year. Do we have any plans for any added features? You know?
We're looking into that right now, as a matter of fact. What we're trying to, the starburst is one of the things that's kind of holding us up. It's the way it was built is kind of strange, so we're
Sure.
trying to find some products that'll actually match the footprint, or we're gonna have to cover some water pipes up and maybe concrete them in, so.
Well, the only reason I asked, with Dodge City, they just opened theirs. I know there's many people that used to come up here. You know, I'd heard bring buses up here, and now we're losing that. And, you know, we can never be better than those, because newer's, always better, but we have to keep us viable. I mean, we have a nice park down there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I just hope we can do something affordable to keep it
Yep.
updated.
We're looking at our options. We got a whole wide variety of things we're looking at, including a splash area, so
That would be
lots
nice.
of things for
That would be
you to
nice.
look at.
I was gonna say, one of the things, we went to Omaha last month, and the Omaha Zoo has a huge, have you seen it?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen it, you should look online or investigate it, because it's just a huge, I do think that they used concrete. I'm not sure what they used, but
Looks
you
nice.
you might even contact them. I mean, I don't know if they give you information or not, but it's really nice. It's basically an artificial creek, and they put in sand and everything else, and they have a waterfall, and basically the kids can just go play in the creek. And my kids were there for like 3 hours, and we finally had to pull them out, because
Wow.
that's all they wanted to do, was just in that area. And I mean, I know that the problem is that we don't have a lot of land to work with, but it looked to me like that would be something that if you designed it right, you could design it around what we already have. It's something that I've not seen anywhere. I mean, I haven't been to Dodge City or Gardens. I don't
That was
I don't
in
know what
Omaha,
they
Jim?
have.
In
Do it.
Omaha?
In the zoo, in the Omaha Zoo, because they did a big remodel after they moved the ballpark, because the ballpark used to be there, and then they changed a bunch of stuff. Yeah, within just the last year, because they just opened it in July, they said, that area that we were in. It's on the north side of the zoo, but it was...
Interesting.
I've not seen anything like it in any other water park, and it was really, really cool. And that would be something that... It is more small kid, oriented. I mean, and mine are 11 and under, but, I mean, it was really neat.
Our main issue with adding something like that, or just a flat splash pad, is the filtering part of it. That's the one thing that's kind of holding us up on that.
Yeah, and they had actual fine sand out there, and I thought, man, you could do this without the sand.
Yeah.
I was actually going to bring up the same thing. I know we challenged, when HRC was here, we challenged to come up with the next big thing at the water park, and I'm excited to see what you guys can come up with. Make sure that you don't drop the ball on that one, or don't forget about it, because I think it's something that the commission as a whole wanted, and we need to expand that.
And there is some money in reserves, pool reserves for that too, so that's something you guys could look at as well. Yep,
I appreciate that.
sure.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, proposed changes to commercial and industrial building setbacks.
Good evening again, Jesse Rohr, Director of Public Works. So this item, as well as the next couple agenda items that I have, were all presented first at the September 21st work session. So since we had the last meeting in September canceled, we're showing those to you again this evening. So this first item tonight is to discuss a possible amendment to the Unified Development Code, particularly certain building setbacks for commercial and industrial zone properties. And I do want you to keep in mind that for this agenda item, as well as the next two also, that these three items are all to ask for a reduction in regulation, not an increase. So keep that in mind as we go along. So the Unified Development Code, or the UDC, was first adopted in August of 2016. After over a full year of use now, staff as well as developers and builders have seen many new and improved benefits to the code. However, one change that was made to the newly adopted UDC was a change to certain building setbacks. While front setbacks were reduced in many cases and stayed the same in others, certain side and rear setbacks increased. This item here tonight, this agenda item, is intended to address those changes. Modifying per the recommended changes would only help to facilitate redevelopment. Here in this slide, you can see three different tables. The top table is the old regulations prior to adoption of the UDC. The middle table shows our currently adopted regulations, and the bottom table is what we're proposing here tonight. The rear setback changes were the most significant of any. No changes are being requested to the front building setbacks. When discussed at the Planning Commission, the only request they had was that if proposed changes are adopted, that they require extra setbacks when a commercial property might be abutting residential zone property. I'll show you some examples of various setbacks around the city in just a moment. So in this particular visual, and I use this one because this was an actual Board of Zoning case that we had earlier this year. So this is a lot at 6th and Riley. It's currently a vacant lot. And the three significant boundaries you see here, the red being the assumed property line, the blue being setbacks under current regulation, and the yellow being setbacks that would be allowed if this change is approved as adopted. So when you compare the blue to the yellow, you can see the extra buildable area with the yellow boundary. So here's some various examples from across town, and a lot of these are commercial to residential. You start looking around, you'll see that they're very common. Here's one approximately 20th and Vine, 22nd and Vine, 24th and Vine property. Here's an alley between General Hayes and General Lawton. Another alley property with a 0-foot setback between 13th and 14th Streets. Another one between 13th and 14th. This is a property near where we are right here on West 15th Street. Another one here on West 15th. So it's very common to see these 0 or near 0 setbacks for commercial properties. So basically, what we're asking for and the options you have to consider tonight, of course, you could approve the ordinance as presented. You could propose any changes or modifications to what's being recommended, or propose no changes and keep the regulations as they are currently. I will mention that in the 40-plus years of having 0 or near 0-foot setbacks for rear and side yard and commercial zone properties, staff can't recall any particular issues that arose because of those particular setbacks. The building code itself does have regulations that would supersede zoning setbacks in certain cases when it comes to fire rating and things like that, so that's already taken care of. So staff would overall recommend approving ordinance number 3943. It would amend certain commercial and industrial rear setbacks as proposed.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 3943, amending certain commercial and industrial rear and side yard setbacks as proposed.
I'll second.
Motion second. Comments on that?
I really, oh, good.
All I was gonna say is, when you said getting rid of regulations, I knew how I was gonna.
And we did.
Yeah. That's my comment. I really appreciate that, that you're coming and asking to not regulate as much. Very nice to hear that.
It's nice to come and do that.
It is nice to come in, and I mean, but it's not a surprise though either. I mean, I think over the past 2 years, that's what I've seen from city staff, is if they can get out of the way, they want to get out of the way. And really appreciate that. Also, it's good to see that the UDC is not set in stone. It is a living kind of a thing that we are going to amend as we get more into it and understand more about it. So I'm glad to see that too.
That was my thought, when we had all the meetings with the realtors and developers, we said if need be, it will be changed, and that proves right here.
We said that time and time again, and here's good proof of that.
So that's really good to see. Any comments on that? So, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That's a 4-0. Next item on the agenda, proposed changes to UDC to allow breezeways.
Okay, and another proposed change to the Unified Development Code, one that I think is fairly simple. So this particular item would, if approved, would change the UDC regulations and would allow connections between dwellings and accessory structures that, because of the wording in the UDC now, isn't allowed. Main principal dwellings, or your houses on your property, as well as accessory structures, have rear yard building setbacks regulated by the UDC. However, each has different setbacks. A primary dwelling typically has a setback of 25 foot. Most accessory buildings have setbacks of 5 foot and can be located quite a bit closer to the rear property line. Do want to make sure that everyone knows that an accessory building is defined as a subordinate building which serves an incidental use to the primary function of the property, such as a garage, a carport, small shed, things like that. Section 10.2.101 of the UDC also states that accessory buildings that are structurally attached to a principal building shall conform to all standards that are applicable to the principal building. So this would include the minimum rear yard setback. So if you attach an accessory building to your primary dwelling has a setback of 25 foot, that means your accessory building has to meet that same setback of 25 foot. Doesn't make it very handy at all to attach it to with this sort of breezeway. So I'll show you a couple rough examples of breezeways. Here's just a kind of schematic showing a very simple covered area between a house and a garage. Here's another one. This is not a local one, but you can see here how the house is attached to the garage. Another one here has a covered patio area between the house and the garage as well. So in another effort to, as you mentioned, try to get out of the way of the codes and the regulations, so when it comes to especially redevelopment and infill, we try to encourage and incentivize property owners to reinvest in their properties that are now in the neighborhood revitalization district especially. And so this change would help to make some of those things happen. There seems to be no reason not to allow this sort of structure other than simply the code doesn't allow it. The fire code is not an issue. We talked with the fire chief on this matter. We did talk with the planning commission on this matter as well. And as long as they're built to the building code and fire code, things like this can be done simply without any violation of any other code except this one statement that you can see on the screen here. By removing that statement, a breezeway is allowed. And I do want to mention, yesterday we had a board zoning meeting. We actually had a variance case for a breezeway that was approved by the board zoning. It's the third or fourth one I can remember over the last few years. So had we had this approved prior, that variance case wouldn't have been needed. I do want to mention the Planning Commission was fully on board with this item, and it was discussed in length, all kinds of options and things, and we started with a 2-page regulation that talked about can they be enclosed and not enclosed, and how big can they be, and how tall can they be, and we just struck all that. And by striking this sentence, if it's a simple breezeway, whether it's enclosed or not, as long as it meets the building code, it's not encroaching on building setbacks, then why wouldn't we allow it? So in this item, your options are simply to approve the ordinance as recommended. You can leave it alone, not change the UDC at all, which still wouldn't allow them, except with a variance through the Board of Zoning Appeals, or you could offer any other suggestions that you may have. Staff, as well as the Planning Commission, would recommend modifying section 10.2.101B2 of the UDC by eliminating the single statement that would then allow for the construction of breezeways between a dwelling and accessory structure. With that, I would take any questions.
I'd move that we approve ordinance number 3944, amending section 10.2.101B2 of the UDC.
Second.
Motion and second. I will reiterate what you guys said earlier. It's just another way of us kind of getting out of the way with all the redevelopment that we have going on. I mean, this just makes sense to strike it.
Makes me want to have a breezeway.
Sounds like a good idea.
Doesn't make me want to have a breezeway. That's work and money.
We kind of joke about it and laugh, but it really, those words are really important getting out of the way.
Oh, yeah.
I think that
Agree.
the things that you brought forth, Jesse, are really good, and we appreciate that. Anytime we can make things easier for our citizens, the better off we are.
I agree.
Well, and
Staff's doing a
again,
great job of that.
it'd be nice if we could take credit for it, but
It's not us.
we didn't come up with this idea. This came from staff, so good
Well,
work.
it did, but this was prompted by a resident. We had a resident, the same one that just went through the Board of Zoning Appeals process, had asked about, doing the breezeway and was initially told that's not allowed by code, and then kind of threw our words back in our own face that we used during the Unified Development Code adoption process, saying, we're gonna make redevelopment easier, especially in the old neighborhood, and said, I thought this was supposed to be easier. So then we sit down and ask the question, okay, codes are put in place either to prevent something or protect somebody or something from something else. And so we sit down as a group and said, all right, who are we trying to protect? What are we trying to protect? Or what are we trying to prevent? And we really couldn't come up with a good answer. And so when you can't come up with a good answer, then the only thing you're protecting from is the code, and that's not a good answer.
Right.
So it was the resident bringing this forward that really brought our attention to it.
That's good.
Thank you for that explanation.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
curious.
thank you.
Very good to know. And Jesse, thank you for being willing to work. Appreciate that.
Jesse, one thing I wanted to bring up, I've had little discussions about this, that we have, since you brought up the neighborhood revitalization area, we've expanded that area. We have talked kind of in a piecemeal way about the incentives and the things that are available for people. We talk about sidewalks in one place, and we talk about, at some point, I'd like to have us bring that all to the table at one time and talk about the things that are available to our citizens in this new area. I know there's a lot of people looking differently because we've expanded the area. So I'd appreciate that if it was brought to us in a centralized way so I can have that conversation even when it's asked of me.
Right. And in fact, the city manager and I actually had a discussion earlier today about staff developing basically a folder that would have the revitalization tax rebate information in it, building permit application, sidewalk information, toilet and turf rebate information, all those things in, like I said, in one packet. And when we get that put together and prepared, we can bring it here and share
That's
it.
perfect. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Not only that, when you have people move to our town, that'd be something really nice to be able to hand out, so they know if they buy a house, it's, especially, an older house, the stuff that's out there for them. I think that'd be a great
Put it
idea.
in the bucket. We give away the bucket when somebody opens a
Yeah,
new account.
absolutely.
And realtors. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. Realtors would be
they're
the
honestly,
best.
they're the first ones who are the contacts for people moving to town.
That's a fact.
Right.
And when they need to be, I'm sure that they are aware of it, but I mean, that would be really something good for a realtor to hand to a potential buyer to say, look, I know what this house looks like, but here's what you might think about you can do with it.
Right. And with the tax rebate program, we just had new brochures printed up, just got about a month ago. And so we've been handing those out. We've actually, Curtis Sinus, the Planning Inspection Enforcement Superintendent, will be going around to the various, the Realtor's office are on the list actually, kind of a meet and greet and get a stack of the applications. All the inspectors carry them in their vehicles as well, so I think one was given out today. I gave one out yesterday, so
It may lead
Anyway, and if we can
people,
put it together as a whole package.
when they can look at the whole thing and see everything that can be accomplished, it'll make a difference, I believe, in some people jumping to make that move and not. Whereas if they just hear we can do the toilet or we can do the sidewalk, if they see the whole package and the realtor's smart enough to put the dollars to it, which I think they will be, I think they'll jump on that opportunity. I think it can make a difference to people.
Unless it's something that's real bulky, you could just add it into the package that the city clerk gives you. When I moved here, they gave me an awesome package with all this stuff in it, and I went through every bit of it and had a lot of good information.
It's a great idea.
Definitely.
Great idea.
You know, I know
Thank you, Jesse.
like the chamber and CVB, that a lot of times that's the first place people stop. It'd be nice to have some of those maybe on file there, just when people walk in.
Yeah, we've actually
Yeah.
gave a stack to Melissa over there at the CVB as well, so.
And another thing you might consider, I know the Board of Realtors meets, all the realtors meet various times. You could even have presentations for them.
We can, and that was one of the items we had considered as well. I've done a couple talks previously on different things, and I think the last one we did was on GIS and our online system, but this will be the next topic to get in front of them and talk about as well. So.
Thank you, Jesse.
Mhm.
All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That's 4-0. Next item on the agenda, large lot developments in extraterritorial jurisdiction.
I'm going to say that once. and that's it.
I don't think I did a very good the first time.
Could say ETJ.
ETJ, yeah. That's what I should have said.
So in this last item, for me tonight, is a discussion on large lots and the ability to develop them and still afford the city of Hayes adequate protection from unwanted encroachment. Do want you to keep in mind that this, as a little bit different than the last two agenda items, this is a policy, an internal policy only, not a strict regulation. So it has some flexibility, especially at the city commission level, as things might come forward in the future. The goal of the discussion and the policy is really just to provide policy guidance relating to proposed establishment of large lot developments. One thing we had to, when we took this to the planning commission, one thing we really had to reiterate over and over again was the purpose of the extraterritorial jurisdiction, or the ETJ, as I'm going to say from here on out.
Thank you.
So, and we had to, remember the purpose of the ETJ. It's prohibiting an unreasonable or undesirable development in the ETJ. And by doing so, we're allowed to do it. We're afforded that luxury of being able to do that by the county and the state statute. It's not considered a taking. The city has the full right to do this, and we've been doing this for 30-plus years, as long as we've had an established ETJ. So a couple visuals I do want to show. The county as a whole is approximately 900 square miles. The city ETJ, which you see in the red boundary there on the map, is approximately 70 square miles. And the city limits itself is approximately 10 square miles. The map I'll show you here in a little bit that we like to adopt along with the policy will show a hashed area. That hashed area will be about 25 square miles. I'll cover that again here in a moment. So first of all, I want to make sure everyone knows and is comfortable with what a large lot development is. So here's one example. This is known as North Stonewood Estates, located northeast of Hayes. Here's a plat of that area. Most lots are just over 4 acres in size. This was platted approximately in 2003, 2004 or so. This is the same development here, a little different image. Again, you can see the lots, some of them built upon, some of them still vacant, and again, they're approximately in that 4 to 4.5 acre lot size. The other one I want to show is Stonewood Estates. This one's on the west side of Hayes. This one was platted back in the mid to late 70s. It contains a mix of 2 acre and 5 acre lots, so we, by definition, consider those as large lots. And for that particular development, I want you to look at this image here, and the red area over here on the right, or on the left, excuse me, is the Stonewood Estates, the 2 to 5 acre lots. And then the one in the yellow over on the right would be the 41st Street Plaza addition that's been building out over the last 20 years or so. And what we did is overlay the Stonewood Estates addition over the 41st Street Plaza addition, and then legend up here, you can see the difference. We went from, a lot count of 16 in this development to 227 over the same land area in that development there. Those are the kinds of things we don't want too close to the city in our future growth areas, so we can have that land available for development with our typical Hayes residential size of lots.
I think, if I can interject real quick, I think it's kind of ironic because when citizens come to us sometimes with these large lot developments, they talk about how much property tax that they pay, and that it's almost like they should get, more privilege for it. But when you look at that lot and how much property tax you're gonna get off of all them smaller lots, there's a huge difference, and I'm sure the income off of these smaller lots is a lot more than what you get, even though you have a bigger house and more. Somebody probably is paying a lot of property tax, but not in comparison to the small lots.
Right, and had someone developed, before this 41st Street Plaza development was here, had someone proposed and got approved a large lot development in that area, we wouldn't have the development as it sits today up there, so.
And sorry to interrupt, I just thought that was a classic point of what needed to be brought up or has been
Right,
brought
definitely.
up, and to make that point, that's a great picture right there.
And I think I'm going to take it a step further and point out that then 20 and 30 and 40 years from now, when we have to tear out the street and reinstall it, and we have to tear out water lines and reinstall it, and we have to tear out sewer lines and reinstall it, if that would ever for some reason be incorporated into the city, then it's essentially all those other homeowners who are subsidizing that, because it takes the same miles of street to put in and the same miles of water lines and the same miles of sewer lines that you do for all those other houses on the right. So in essence, in a way, the homeowners on smaller lots are in a way subsidizing those in the larger lots.
Well, and that's the key issue here is the cost to provide services and infrastructure to those lots. I don't think anybody here is saying that a large lot development like that is a bad thing. It's just not a good thing in an urban setting when you have to provide urban level of services. And so if you get them too close to the city and you have to build around them, providing urban levels of service, you have to provide, urban level water lines, sewer lines, streets, storm sewer, things like that. That's where it does get cost prohibitive, everybody else subsidizes it. So to me, that's the intent of tweaking this policy, is saying, hey, these types of subdivisions are fine, they just don't need to be in the growth areas. They would need to be in a place where they're gonna stay rural, and not be, forced to provide that.
And I should have been more, I should have emphasized that more, that's if they were ever incorporated into the city, which, as, if they're in a certain area, that won't happen. And then that's not happening. You don't have one homeowner subsidizing another's large lot.
Yeah, I don't want to leave the impression that I'm against large lot development by any way, shape, or form.
No.
Because I think I've shown otherwise. It's,
Right.
in that setting, it's not the right place to do it.
Yeah, I think that there's two people up there who have already shown their chops about how they feel about large lot development.
I think the key words there were too close to the city. Everything's
Yeah.
relative, I think it's our job to look farther than the next 5 years in the future and start to think what's going to happen in 20 and 30 years from a community standpoint. I'm the same way. I'm not against large lot development at all. In fact, I appreciate a lot of it, but it's where it is, that too close to the city piece. But I think that the compromise that we've come to,
Right.
I believe, is a really good one when we get
Right.
ready to.
And so, I'll explain that a little bit, kind of what we're proposing then.
Sorry, I jumped.
So, nope, no problem. It's a good transition there. So, as this was first initially brought up, actually by the Hayes Board of Realtors, and it was discussed at the city-county joint meeting earlier this year, we thought, rather than restricting the entire 3-mile area and not allowing any large lot development, let's pull that back a little bit and identify certain areas where large lot development would be acceptable, because we agree that there are some areas where it would be just fine. So this draft concept map was and drafted and put together by city staff and county staff and planning commission. And this map, if the policy is approved, would accompany the policy. So there's about 35 square miles or so in the hashed area where large lot development would be acceptable. There's approximately 25 that's not hashed and not in the city limits. So this particular map protects about 25 square miles of area within the ETJ that if a developer came forward for a large lot development, this policy, by definition of the policy, we'd pull back the reins a little bit and we'd say, we don't think that's a good fit. Here's other areas where it can be done. If it's not in the hashed area, it would be considered contiguous, basically, and would be treated as such. Large lot development coming forward would likely, as I mentioned, not be recommended or approved. However, as those type of developments would come to the city commission, with this being a policy, you would have the ultimate say. If there's some particular case that for some reason in a particular area, certain development would be acceptable, you'd be able to do that even with the policy in place.
Still subject to the county, though. Approval.
Well, the policy itself wouldn't be. We have the.
Even if we overrid it, it would still be subject to the county.
Plats themselves still require a plat in the ETJ would require county approval as well. You're right. With this slide, the kind of two main points I want to make are the two bullet points on the bottom there. Policy must accommodate future connectivity and growth, and the whole concept of this is to protect the future growth areas of Hayes. And since you mentioned the county, like I say, we did work with the county staff on this. We made them aware of the planning commission meetings and such, and so they could provide input. They were happy with the policy and the map going forward. Didn't have any other concerns about it. So your options here tonight, we could, and would ask that you adopt a large lot development policy and the associated map as recommended. If you have any changes or considerations to either the policy or the map, those could be made, or we could leave things as they are now and not adopt any policy. Staff, as well as a unanimous decision by the Planning Commission, would recommend adopting the policy and map as drafted. Any further questions you might have?
Jess, you just said something that I really like, about how we talk with the county. And to me, that's the most important part, is let's have a working relationship with this. Because when we originally started talking about, there was, our opinions, their opinions, and I hope this is something that we both somewhat agree on for the future development of not only the city of Hayes, but Ellis County.
Right, and I would agree, and I think, like I say, the concept was really first talked about at the joint meeting, and,
Right.
and I think both commissions were on board with coming up with something to help us out.
Yeah, this is great.
Yep.
Because this is kind of the best of both worlds. Like,
Right.
Citizens can get large lots which are desirable to them, that's close to the city. It's far enough out, I don't think we're going to be providing services, which is good to the city of Hayes, that we're not taking on those additional responsibilities. But we still get benefit because they're close enough, they're going to be shopping in Hayes. And, eventually, I think it's far enough away that the chances of them being incorporated and then having that bad situation where we talked about where small lot homeowners are essentially subsidizing larger lots, I think the risk for that is really mitigated. So it's kind of the best of all worlds.
And it really helped decision-making at the staff level, the planning commission level, and the city and county commission level. Having something in place that we've already scrutinized different areas, it'll just help with those decisions.
I mentioned at the work session, I did set through the planning commission work on this, and I really want to congratulate the planning commission for the work they did on this. It was arduous. There was a lot of discussion.
There was.
It was really good work, and I want to say again publicly, what a great job they did.
And I agree, and they represent the county and the city.
That's right.
Yeah.
They went through a lot of those
And John's
numbers.
ready to party.
Yeah, really. I apologize for that. I've got this set so that GPS shuts it off when I go to the courthouse or here. And
GPS
I think my GPS just quit. I was trying to look up plats and counties to
Oh,
see,
yeah.
believe it or not, and I think, Jesse, that plats are required anytime anybody transfers less than 5 acres, basically.
Right,
If
just
you're gonna try to-
subdividing,
Yeah.
less than
So you were
5 acres.
kind of in an area, you had to do something
Mhm.
less than 5,
Right.
but the commission needs to know that. I mean, that somebody could still take their land and sell it off 5 acres at a time, and they're not required to plat. So,
That is
apologize for that interruption.
Right, I think that's actually a state statute
Yes, it is,
requirement,
we
right?
can't.
I mean, it's in our local ordinances, but it's there because state statute
Sure.
Right.
requires it. So.
Interesting to know.
I'll move we approve the large lot development policy and map.
Second.
Yeah, motion and a second, any other comment? Good work. Yeah, very good work. Blank on this. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. This is 4. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commission inquiries and comments. Commissioner Nate?
I want to congratulate Fort Hays for the great work they did on the Fort Hays homecoming weekend. It was outstanding, and I stayed really close to the paper to make sure we didn't really have any issues within the city. And I don't think we have. I don't think have we heard anything from Chief. I think it was just a great, great weekend. People really enjoyed. I want to welcome everybody in town this weekend for Hays High's homecoming. Starts tonight with their bonfire, and I think they've got a great night for it, and parades and so forth. And I want to say formally again how proud I am of the staff and all the associates in the city for the work you do. And you're going to find us using this phrase a lot, of getting out of the way.
Yep.
And I think the work that you're doing right now on that is really important, and it's very much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Well, on the 21st, I got married and went directly on my honeymoon, so I missed the housing study presentation, so I didn't get to weigh in on that. I'm gonna throw my 2 cents in here a little bit. Probably talk more than I have in the last 2 years. I moved here in 2009 and I bought a house. I was either gonna rent or buy a house here, and the reason that I chose Hayes to move to is because the housing cost was considerably less than where I was working. So when I had a chance to transfer my job here, it was a pretty easy decision when I was looking at $90,000 houses as compared to $180,000 houses in Manhattan. But when I came here and I was looking at stuff, I was open to renting. And I looked at houses from people like Glenn Till, who wrote a letter to the editor in Hayes Daily News. And I know I probably shouldn't name people specifically, but that I looked at a couple houses of his, and his specifically are the reason that I decided to buy instead of continue to look at renting houses. The houses that he was renting were $600 or $700 a month houses, and I wouldn't live in them. I wouldn't want my dogs or cats in them houses, let alone. So the fact, I say that because the fact that there might be 150 vacant rentals, as was brought up in the work session when I listened to the audio from it, there may be 150 rentals open right now, but that doesn't mean that it's affordable housing, for one. It doesn't mean that it's good housing. And the study, we as a commission asked the study to be brought forward. It was presented to us as a commission, and we asked it to be presented so the public could see it. And then when it was presented, it was kind of bashed as though we don't have a housing problem, when in all actuality we do. And that was a little bit, I was taken away by that, the fact that study got bashed after we asked it to be presented to the public. If we didn't agree with it as a commission, then we probably shouldn't have brought it forward to be presented to the public, I don't think. But my house that I bought in 2009 for $90,000 is valued now at almost double what it was in 2009. So, and the only thing I've done to it is put windows in and regular maintenance upkeep. So something has happened over the last 8 years in Hayes to where now the housing market is the same or equivalent to Manhattan, where I came from. And the reason that the housing market was so high there is because a Big Red One was coming back. And that's why I couldn't buy a house at that particular time, is because now you've got 100,000 people moving to that general area when they moved the Big Red One back, and housing went through the roof. It was a short period of time, and now the housing market in Hayes is the same as what it was in Manhattan. Now, we've talked about retail development, economic development, and the path to 20,000 people, because supposedly that is a magic number. Once we get to 25,000 people in Hayes, then all this retail is going to come, and all this jobs are going to come, and we can grow, and people will come here and shop and spend money. But if we're sitting just shy of 21,000 right now, correct? So that's over 4,000 people that we need housing for, and affordable housing, not housing that Glen Till offers, and other slumlords around town. And I'm sorry to use that language in public, but there are them houses here. And I hope of the 150 available rentals that are open right now, that they are from the people like Glen Till. And I only bring him up because he wrote a letter to the editor, so I think he kind of opened himself up for this. But there are others around town that when I was looking at housing and rentals, that people come here and they look at the rentals, and if they see them housing, they may choose not to live here anymore, or choose not to move here. If I couldn't have afforded to buy a house, if I was only in the market to rent, I probably wouldn't have moved here. But anyways, we do have an affordable housing issue, and regardless of what the housing study says, my opinion is, and it has been, and it will be, that should be Hayes' #1 priority. If we want to grow, we want to bring jobs here, we want to bring retail, we have to do something about the affordable housing. Now, I don't have the answers for that, but to say that it would be ridiculous to incentivize affordable housing, in my opinion, is a wrong answer. And I'm off my soapbox. Thank you.
If I could add to that, Commissioner Jones, the first time that I've actually seen in many years, Stone Post, what we call affordable housing, is actually advertising that they have openings. And that's kind of a surprise for me, because we haven't seen that. At first there was a big waiting list. So I think there's no doubt what you said, there's a lot of what I call slumlord apartments, but there are some nice apartments out there for rent right now. And but yes, we need to definitely focus on affordable housing.
And the more that we have open, maybe the price will drop. Maybe people that are charging these $1,000 for a 2 or 3 bedroom house will come down to where a single mother with 2 kids or 3 kids can come here and actually rent a house in Hayes and afford to do it. So the fact that we have 150 houses for a town for rent on market, unless I didn't come up with them numbers, that's what was brought up at the meeting. So 150 housing openings to me is not enough for a town our size, but I'm also not an expert on a rental market per se. I just know that people with that income level cannot move here. They choose to live in Ellis or Walker or Victoria rather than live in Hayes because they can afford to live there. So I lied about being off my soapbox.
All right. Schmeier?
I'm fine. I don't think I'm going to chime in tonight.
Well, I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit because I got lit up. My phone got lit up last night by a gentleman in town. I was told the city commission was getting thrown under the bus pretty loudly yesterday afternoon by some gentleman downtown about us not going after the Tyson chicken farm. and why Russell, they're doing it and we're not doing anything. Well, we kind of have a water issue in Ellis County that's been for, as far as I know, ever. And I think we're as close as ever to securing a long-term water source, I hope anyway. And in my opinion, yes, we all know we need more people in this town, we need more jobs, good paying jobs. But if we would go after Tyson Chicken, I think we could kiss our long-term water supply goodbye. And I just, yes, I would love to have that, but the water that would use, to me, that would be the most idiotic thing that we've ever done on the commission, in my opinion.
Oh, can I?
Absolutely.
I was going to keep quiet, but I think it's important to distinguish that is Russell County that
Yes,
is doing
absolutely.
that, and not the city of Russell.
Yep.
The city of Russell, which is a part owner in the R9, I don't think has spoken on the subject, and if they do speak, I think that they would
Yep.
be in agreement with the city of Hayes. It's Russell County that has decided to go after that project, and so I think that there's some disagreement amongst the city and the county
Yeah.
government in Russell. So I know that, public-wise, a lot of times those details get lost, and
Right.
so I think it's important to point that out, that it's not, Russell itself is not going after that. It's Russell County that is doing
Right.
it.
And
And I think it's somewhat irresponsible to be doing that. They're also the ones who have an ethanol plant sitting in their town that they can't really, has it ever run at full capacity because of water issues? They shut down a rest area on I-70 because they said they didn't have enough water for the rest area. So I don't know where they think they're gonna get water for a chicken plant.
How much water does chickens drink?
well, yeah.
700 million gallons.
The usage
Really?
I saw is 700 million.
It'll be probably 10% more than what the Ellis County uses.
Yeah. It's 150% of
Thank you.
our annual usage annually.
Yeah, that would be idiotic for Hayes. It'd be great to have the jobs, but that would not be very smart
Right.
on our part. So when I heard that last night saying that we weren't looking for new business, I think we all are, we've all said we have to be looking for anything and everything right now, and I think we all are doing a good job of that. It's not very easy right now with the economic times, but we can't give up. So that, we're adjourned.